Be good for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting us while I
I did it to you.
That's about it. Lord, thank you for having this opportunity to go to this evening. Let's take care of the town business. You know, it's been tough and difficult. We have a good path, a bright future against me. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Chief Spellman. We appreciate that. And we are doing this, our purpose. Move on to agenda item 3 and bring Mr. Durham or Mr. Irwin, whoever first.
I'm going to start out.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon to all of you. Pleasure to be with you. David and I will be tag teaming this afternoon as we talk about our 22-23 budgets for the year. And we'll start out with Clayton. It worked for him.
Yeah, because you had.
Okay, here we go. So David and I will be talking about here's the agenda for this afternoon. The budget process and general fund, I will take care of that. David will be talking about sanitation, water and sewer fund, stormwater fund, and the fleet maintenance fund. Then next steps, and also we'll be talking about future issues. Again, we're in a different situation this year. We, as a board, are not considering adopting the budget for this year. This budget will be adopted by the local government commission, but it does allow the opportunity for feedback and input, so that's the intent of us having this meeting and talking about the proposed budget. We have developed, a budget has been developed, it is compliant with NCGS 159. We also use the existing counting system that we have in place. We have talked about the budget calendar, and David will also talk about that as we move forward. The public hearing will be held with the OGC as well as the Spring Lake Board of Aldermen, that is scheduled for the 15th of June. And so as far as the process here, budget calendar again was adopted here. We developed year-end estimates. There was a budget kickoff meeting that was held with staff. And I want to stop now and say how much I appreciate the hard work that's been done by all the staff. I have 3 here. Thank you, gentlemen, for the hard work that's been done as far as submitting budgets and adhering to the process. So the department request came in, and we'll also talk about the previous versus action. We'll do that in an upcoming slide. The FY 22 estimates, also the FY 22-23 request. This is a team approach. This is being done by our manager, the town manager, myself, the OGC, and the finance consultant team. Again, this is a joint effort that's been done by all. Support services formula, this is a little bit different than what we done last year. This is paying for those operational costs that are associated with the other funds, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. As you review the budget, there are lots of chart of accounts there. We have reduced that, but also the copy that you have, we need to do more reductions that will come out of there. Any manager that's presenting a budget to you will say, he or she will say that the revenue projections are conservative, and they are indeed this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, want to present a realistic budget.
Put your cursor on the slide. Make it active. Move your cursor down to the PowerPoint.
Can you advance it yourself? Okay, once you advance, I'll hold this.
Unless you gotta click on the
Write it
PowerPoint.
down, maybe. Write it quicker.
There we go. That's working. All right.
Oh, now it's working?
That's working. Okay, we just talked about the, just so you'll be able to read your budget. The top one there is the governing body, just as an example, the expense worksheet report. These are expenditures. It'll have the previous year, which compares the actual budget, the actual 2021 budget to actual to budget. Then the FY 21-22 has the current budget and the expended encumbered. And then when you look at the third part of that, looks at the departmental request, what's been recommended, and then eventually force council approval. And the next one has a revenue worksheet, so you can see that. This is looking at general fund and the property taxes for the current year. Current budget is 2.864 million, and you can see that. Revenues to date is about 2.664, projecting 2.8 million. So estimated for next year is about 2.858. You can see that that is not a significant increase because there's not a lot of significant development that's occurring within our town. So I'm going to talk about the general fund. Again, this is a balanced budget. It represents the general fund, 8.032 million. This year, we are appropriating a fund balance of $250,000. This is a good thing that we're able to do that. Again, trying to replenish those reserves. When we talk about finance staffing, it includes in the budget this year a 50-50 split there between having our own staff and also the outsourcing those services. Right now, currently for the past year, we've been outsourcing all of those services. So projecting for the next fiscal year, it'll be a 50-50 proposition there. We are proposing a return to full salaries. This means the elimination of the furloughs, which resulted in a 5% reduction in salaries. We are proposing a 3% cost of living for all employees. I just mentioned to you the property tax revenues are flat with no tax increase that's being recommended this year. Sales tax revenue looks good. The increases there going from budget to budget from 2.8 million to about 3.2 million. When you look at what we're projecting through year's end versus the budget that we're expecting in revenues, it's about, I think it's about a 5% increase. Health insurance, a lot of times there are significant increases associated with that. I think we're using an older slide there. That is actually a 4.1% decrease, which represents about a $23,760 savings for the town. We are eliminating the short-term disability. That will result in about $13,573 savings. We are not adding new positions or eliminating positions that we already have in place. One significant question mark for us moving forward is the transfer of recreation and parks to Cumberland and Fayetteville. That is still under review and evaluation. There were assumptions that were built into that in the beginning that would generate that cost savings. Also a better scheduling, better access, better customer service. So those were all the reasons that we chose to move forward with the the transfer of that to Fayetteville Parks and Rec. So that is still under review. There is a proposed public hearing scheduled for June 20th with Cumberland County. We still have a lot of work that needs to be done in that area, and still trying to schedule a meeting with the city of Fayetteville to make sure we can properly make this transition. I I'm gonna turn it over to David, but before that, any questions for me?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Durham. One of the things that has always been brought up as a resident, as a homeowner, taxpayer, I do applaud you on the property tax with no increase on that, because with the highest Cumberland County tax rate that we have, and the services that our people get, I appreciate your hard work in working on this to keep this where it's at. One of the questions I got when you talked with our budget, looking at doing in our finance with a 50-50 split, is that going to result in an increase or decrease? I know that when we bring in town employees, that we also have the package for
I think it's projected to be revenue neutral at this stage, is that, we're not gonna spend any more money than what we spent this past year.
Okay.
Excuse me, not revenue neutral, but cost neutral, so.
Okay, and does this, with the budget, is this also taking into effect the number of our employees, our positions that are open at this point?
Yes, I mean, none of those positions were eliminated, so all the positions that were funded for this past year will be funded for this upcoming year. So the vacancies that are out there, and we can hire for those vacancies, as we have been doing.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for me?
Alderman Cooper?
Thank you. The short-term disability, how many employees will that affect?
I don't know. I don't think it was a significant number of employees that signed up for that benefit. And again, it is something that is, as we look in the future, looking at the suite of benefits that we offer, that is something that an employee can purchase on their own versus us allowing for that. It's
Okay, and the other question is, so you said we're proposing to budget 300,000 for the Parks and Rec, transfer?
Mhm. Right. That's an appropriation that, that's an appropriation that we would make to Fayetteville, Cumberland County. And it still represents $100,000 savings over what we're spending totally in that area.
But I wish I had last year's budget, because I thought last year's Parks and Rec budget I thought it was significantly higher than that, or are we not including salaries and benefits?
All of that is, well, all of that's included in there. Again, you look at what we were paying over the last year versus what we're appropriating this year, and it's about $100,000 plus savings that are associated with that. Be glad to get you that number rather than you.
Yeah, because I'm curious, 1 second. I just thought it was, when you include senior center and Parks and Rec, I thought it was, a couple of million? I may be wrong.
I don't think it's that amount, but we can, that's certainly something, that's a question that we can check out. Look at, talk about past expenditures versus the appropriation for this
Okay.
year, but
Thank
the,
you.
projected savings is at $100,000.
So, and just for clarity's sake, I know it says transfer to Parks to Fayetteville and Cumberland County. It's Fayetteville, Cumberland County, one organization, but it's a county-wide organization. That's been a big fear, as people keep saying, you're giving our Parks and Rec to Fayetteville. It is not going to Fayetteville. Fayetteville, Cumberland County is just the name of Parks and Rec, but it's a county-ran program.
Yes.
Can I add that, 9 of the 10 municipalities in Cumberland County, if we combine with them, will be part of that program, so that leaves only Hope Mills, out there alone, so, I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. And let me add, I've had some questions from some of you and others regarding that proposed transfer. And the assumptions that were made in the beginning is that we would continue to retain ownership of all the facilities, all the automobiles would still be involved in scheduling. And so it does include those elements there. We still will be in charge of some of the capital costs associated with our facilities too.
Thank you for clarifying
I I did have one more question. With the, health insurance, that was the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's for both.
It's okay.
Yes,
The health insurance decrease, were any of the benefits that the employees received affected by this?
No, we did, the packages that were, or the plans that were offered previously will continue to be offered for this year. Open enrollment will start pretty soon.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Question, Mayor.
Alderman Palacios?
Hey, can you clarify, Ms. Durham, the sales tax revenues, is the increase to the sales tax, or is it based on the revenues of the sales taxes?
It does not represent any increase in the sales tax rate. None of, all of those remain the same as they have for years. It does represent additional revenue that's been generated by increased sales.
Okay, so have we been receiving more in sales tax revenue this year that allots for the projected increase?
Yes, it does. We're already close to what we budgeted in revenues just for this year. So we're gonna meet our goals for this year, so we're including an increase in, a projected increase for next year of around 5.
Do you have those numbers on where we're at right now in the sales tax? I know you said we're close.
Can you pull up that revenue sheet? It's on that revenue sheet if you want to look at that.
Number 10.
That's fund 10 revenue. Yeah, let us pull up the.
It's okay, we can get the answer later if that's what you're presenting later, I'm sorry.
Well, we're actually not presenting it later.
But we are, okay, and then, but I do see we're at 93% for the property taxes
Correct.
of what we budgeted this year.
And that's about normal, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
The Fund 10 revenue,
Yes. That's gonna be hard to look at, but
you see if I can
Go to the
go to the second page.
page.
go second.
At
There
the
you go.
bottom, the articles.
The bottom.
So there are 4 there, they are 39, 40, 42, 44,
Make that big, please.
and,
Well,
go ahead.
Okay.
can I scroll down just like here? There you go. So the second from the right column, the 1.2, 6.2, 600, 610, that's the estimate for this calendar year of the total sales tax income. And your budget for this year is the fourth column from the right. The 1083, 583, 535, 564, that was our budget. So I think we're actually 450,000 over budget. Sales tax is really strong all across the state. And what Joe was talking about, if you compare this year's budget to what we projected for next year, is the 14% increase, or 15.
15.
And Joe was very nervous, but what I like to do is say, right, what's the actual for this year? You add up that next last column, and what we're projecting is 5.8% over what we've actually got. And the North Carolina League of Municipalities puts out a really good letter that talks about sales tax trends, and they look at it statewide, and they were comfortable. I think that was their projection.
Was 15 overall. Budget.
Okay, so we are 400,000 above what we projected.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Turn it over to David.
Thank you so much for all of your hard work, Mr. Durham.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you and the staff.
Thank you.
Start with sanitation.
Yeah, I'm gonna make one more comment about the general fund, if I may.
Please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Aldermen and women. There was good I enjoy working on budgets, so this was kind of fun. But one thing I did want to point out, the general fund, if you, like the sheet we were just looking at, if we go down to the bottom of the general fund revenues, you can see budget and actual for 21, 22, what we're proposing for 23. So when we go back and look at the 21 budget, which was before most all of you, the reduction that we had to do to get from 21 to 22 was a 14% reduction in general fund revenue. So that was what caused all these cuts and furloughs. One big component that was, I call it structurally unsound in that budget, was in 2021, there was a $647,842 fund balance appropriation. They were taking money out of savings, but their savings weren't there. So that was why 2021 was such a horrific year, and y'all had such huge changes. Now, when we look at, we're going from 2022 to 2023, we're actually, the total general fund budget is going up 2%. So to me, that's a real success story for Spring Lake, because when you had drastic cuts, and I mean, Deborah Mack and the consultants, the finance staff, as well as all the departments, they've been held accountable with purchase orders and transfers, and you've lived within your means. So that's the difference between really being diligent about staying within your budget and not. So I think we're presenting what I consider to be a very positive budget. It's because of the due diligence that everybody at Spring Lake has practiced this year. Not only general fund, but just all the funds. So if we're going to go back to the sanitation fund, so the total budget you see there is 626,522. It's about a 1% decrease from the current budget. There's no change in the sanitation rates. And of course, the employees there know we eliminated the furlough and they get a 3% COLA. The water sewer fund, total budget there is about 4.1 million, which is about a 4.6% increase over the 2022 budget. There was no fund balance replenishment budgeted in this fund because the fund is doing well this year, and in order to do some of the capital things, we didn't budget the fund balance replenishment. There are several capital projects included in there. Just a few of them I'll mention: aerator replacement. We're going to do the AIA inventory study. Of course, we got some grant money that's going to help with that too. Replace water valves, replace some sewer lines, a new HVAC for the admin building, get a sewer camera, and other miscellaneous things. But the water sewer fund is doing well so far this year. There are rate increases here. PwC did an across-the-board rate increase to everybody that it services of 16%. Now, Spring Lake doesn't get all its water from PwC; it gets some from Harnett County. So we're also looking at a study. The study was done in May of 2020 by McConnell and Associates that kind of gave Spring Lake a table here of suggested rate increases, and we're like a year behind. We're doing the 2022 rate increase for 2023 because it wasn't started the first year. But the blended rate increase on the water side is about 14%, and most of that's because of the PwC increase, and the increase on the sewer side is 5%. Those increases are necessary just to keep the fund stable and to kind of prepare for some infrastructure projects that need to be done in the not too distant future. So if you're going to get any kind of grants, then we'll see you got good rates that you're charging appropriately. You know, we run the enterprise as a business, so revenue is supposed to cover the expenditures, and it's doing that this year, and it'll continue to do so with the rate increase.
Just so the public knows that this is not, it's just spending willy-nilly or trying to tax you. It's mandatory. These rates go up regularly. and they're gonna continue to rise incrementally, just so
Chemicals have gone up a lot, fuel's gone up, so yes.
Inflation.
Utilities, inflation. And Joe, I did email Joe a copy of that rate study. If
We have
y'all-
it.
You've got that too. The stormwater fund, now this is the old slide too, with question marks on it. Part of the team suggested we do a rate increase in the stormwater, but I don't think, well, particularly Joe and I aren't comfortable with it, because before we increase stormwater rates, we'd really like to better understand, you know, what the work plan is right now and what the work plan can be with additional revenues. Utility rates could really be changed at any time during the year, of course, depending on when the stormwater is billed. But I don't really recommend that there be a rate increase for stormwater this year. And in fleet maintenance, that accounting has been further refined. The fleet maintenance takes care of all the rolling stock of every department. And the cost of doing that are charged back to the departments. We're not calling them transfers anymore, it's really an allocation of the fleet maintenance cost. And it does provide for greater accountability. So what are the next steps? Give you all some time to process some information. You got the detailed budget, you want to look through those. We might need to send some interpretation. Fund 10 is general fund, Fund 60 is water sewer. We can write that down for you. Joe and I talked about if you had a lot of questions or wanted clarifications, we could meet again sometime next week and talk about more specifics if you'd like. The LGC will have a public hearing on the budget, the 13th, Monday at 7 o'clock. And y'all got a meeting scheduled for that time. So the LGC, actually the LGC will do the budget approval, but you know, we want to get concurrence from the Board of Aldermen here. Because it will become your budget when we're gone. And then to implement, I don't know if there's really any board training necessary to do the budget, but there may be some staff training as far as, you know, how we're gonna attack the budget this year and stay within our financial means. And then financial policies are a thing that we're still working on to get updated. I think the audit committee is looking at that also. Did you have any questions for me about any of the other funds?
Councilman Lafleur?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, David. As we keep talking about this 5% furlough across the board for the town, what amount of savings has that created for the town?
When we had the 5% furlough in place?
Right.
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay. And for all of our town employees that are here and that are listening, that hear this, you know, we appreciate the sacrifices that you all have made to help us get out of this hole that we are in. So for the town employees, thank you. It hasn't gone unnoticed, so thank you.
It's been a good year from that perspective.
Absolutely.
Mm.
You have questions? Mayor Pro Tem? Any other questions? Alderman Palacios? Chance, just in case.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay. I did have a question, or I did want to make a statement addressing the rate increases to the water and sewer, because this is probably the line item that is going to affect more people than the others. And I know that last year, this is a hard pill that had to be swallowed by the prior administration, was acknowledging that there were important things that needed to happen to make sure the town had the resources and funding to be able to address and fix the issues. At the rate the town had their water and sewer rates, the town wasn't able to even fix the issues. It wasn't making enough money to counter the repairs that were being done. And so last year we embarked on this process, which is the water and sewer rate study that Mr. Irwin was sharing. And this was a projected rate increase that continued to need to be done just to make us, to allow the town to be capable to take care of those important needs, all the water and sewer issues that we've been having with the town's water supply. So I did want to acknowledge that, that this wasn't a surprise. This is something that has been ongoing, and we need to continue to take care of this because I believe it was stated last year during the budget talks that the rates for the water and sewer had not been adjusted since 2007. So we were significantly behind on these things. Other than that, I wasn't aware of what Mr. Irwin stated, which is while we are looking to get grants for the water and sewer needs, the infrastructure and those kind of things, and even the stormwater, that having the rate increases in the water would further help us in getting grants, along with another thing that I had a question about, which was the fund balance replenishment for the water and sewer fund, that had been brought to our attention a couple months ago, where we were 1.88 million behind in the way the funds were being transferred between accounts. Based on the last meeting, Mr. Irwin, you had said that that there was no update to how we can mitigate that. But I do know that the LGC had a meeting in which we became eligible to pursue grants. Is that accurate?
Not related to the transfer. The transfer from the water sewer to the general fund, we're still, that's a to-do we've got to look at. I personally think it's going to be less than 1.8, because some of that transfer is actually for operating costs.
But not paying or not replenishing that could have been an issue in pursuing grants. Is that accurate?
If you do not replenish that, then yeah, that'll keep you out of the grant pickup.
Okay, but again, it was noted that we are not, that is not a proposed item in this budget because of the amount of funds that the water and sewer fund had gotten this year.
Correct. And the 1.8 or some amount less, we're hopeful that a lot of that will be cured, some with the ARPA money, possibly.
Okay.
But there are a couple of ways to get that corrected so that it won't hold spring leg up on any kind of grant applications or loan applications.
Okay. And I did want to also just make mention about your comment for the stormwater rates not looking to be increased because we don't yet know or have a plan of what that's going to entail, what repairs need to be done anyways. So we're not going to require the money until we have a plan in place. Is that accurate?
Yes, correct. Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Alderman Cooper. Sorry.
Thank you. It's not really, it's just a question. Is there any way to put that rate study on our website, maybe behind so that, people can see it, it's readily available, and they understand what is to come?
Yeah.
For full transparency.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
I firmly agree with that because it was a big, storm last year when the rates went up, because it was a significant hike. But I think if we just explain what happened last year, what we're doing this year, and how this is an ongoing process for any municipality, then I think that will help, the community tremendously.
So the rate will actually be effective for water usage start after July 1st. So that won't show up until the August bill.
Yeah, that definitely should be noted, that
Mhm.
on, if they will see an increase.
Yeah, and they can see what is to come as well.
Yes.
Thank
You know,
you.
this study was done in 2020, so you're looking at, next year it'll be 3 years old. It's probably time to think about updating it, just to see what's changed.
I think so.
I agree. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Awesome.
Mr. German's gonna talk about the future.
Just one more slide.
Take your time,
Thanks, David.
we're moving right along. Oh.
So this is a budget that does recommend that and indicate that we're moving in the right direction. And one of the things, we'll go through a few things here. One is that transition of the LGC. At some point in time, I love working with David. I'm sure all of you love working with David. Staff love working with David. At some point in time, David's not gonna be here. The LGC will transition away. And that timetable has not been established, but that's just something to start thinking about. At some point in time, that will happen. And that will need to be coordinated between the town and the LGC is when that does happen. And obviously, we talked about financial management earlier, about finance department, excuse me. We're looking at a transition there from a blended staff, a contracted staff, as well as town staff. So that's gonna happen. Financial policies, as it relates to the audit that was conducted, and additional policies that will have to be created and updated, and that will, it will be ongoing. Just want everybody to be aware of that. None of this stops, it continues to go. Third bullet there are obviously a significant number of vacancies right now in leadership positions. Moving forward on hiring an attorney, we talked about the finance director and staff, the town manager's position, police chief's another one. Now, these are some significant leadership positions of the town. Again, just wanted you to start thinking about those things as we move forward. We talked about the transition from recreation and parks to Fayetteville and Cumberland County. We need to continue reviewing those opportunities for mergers and consolidations and looking at cost savings where they are. You have talked to me before about utilizing grants. That will be something that will have to be looked at too. So we need to continue to look at those opportunities where we're gaining some income, but also we can look at cost savings. And we want to be cost effective for our citizens without reducing the service levels that they're accustomed to receiving. And the important part there is continue to budget and spend within means. Again, we do that, we try to do that personally, in our own personal account. We need to do that here. And we don't spend money that we don't have. Again, we're doing better, but we just need to be concerned about the future and still continue to be financially prudent. Financial stability is a long game, it is not a short game. There'll be years before we can get out of the challenges that we have before us as it relates financially, but we stay the things that we're doing right now, we need to continue to do those, and it'll be a better future for the town as it relates to being financially prudent and sound for the future. So just wanted to put those things up on the slide so you can start thinking about those as we move forward. And again, I want to say thank you to all of you and look forward to responding to any additional questions or concerns related to the budget for 22-23.
Any questions? Awesome. That was really quick and really easy, really painless. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. That's because we have such a dedicated staff. So, Mr. Irwin, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we have a finance director position available. Just plant that seed real quick. If there are no other questions or no, hi, Alderman Lyman. Have a red light.
We read each other's minds. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Awesome.
Huh?
There's a second.
A motion to adjourn?
Yes, ma'am, we're finished.
Huh? Oh. I think that.
Any discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?